Hey everybody, Fab4 here with the next episode of Can I Fix It, where I take a look at your games that you just couldn't quite close out, and I see if I can work my magic to give the win to you. On today's episode, I have myself versus Heka. Over here on the opponent's side, he's running a Farseer Specialist. As for me, I am running a Supply Specialist. Starting off with triple Arc Lights and a couple Steel Balls. Heka over here gets two Tarantulas and Crawlers for his start. For our placements here, we're both going aggro, and we end up headbutting right here on this right side. And I actually set up one arc light over on this left side to kind of help with any problems that I run into as well. Our first unit unlocks are going to be Crawler for me. Eka grabs some marksmen to line up in the front, and he goes pretty much right across the line. So all of his units are just lined up. I do a little checking around, some experimenting to see what other kind of aggro formations I want to do, but I end up doing my own, placing the steel balls in the front. That way the tarantulas will lock onto them first, and then the crawlers can kind of rush in and do their thing. The only problem is I end up putting these arc lights a little close to the front. And we're going to see that become a very big problem as soon as this first round starts. So we can see right away, marksman double shot right onto this arc light. The tarantula locks on. There's nothing it can do. So it's actually starting out pretty poorly for me on this round. Now all I got left is this arc light. And it's probably not even going to make it to the tower. All right, going on to round two, we just have some regular cards. I will also point out, you can see that Heka's life points are a little low. There was just a recent patch, and so there is actually some health changes and a couple unit changes, especially with tarantulas, not by a lot. But that is going to affect some things for some of these older replays as they are now expired. But looking at the cards we get here, the one that stands out for me actually is this advanced missile device. The improved overlord is kind of a bit early on. Laser sight is not really important because I'm also on the line. Same with Heka. And then the extended phantom range. You know, we don't have phantom rays. And the HP loss on this card is pretty significant for them. And I believe we both end up going the advanced missile device. Just getting that extra 200% damage. Placing two of them right here is going to almost one-shot the tarantulas, and then my units can finish them off. Plus, it's going to help out in the future if I ever need to deal with some kind of heavier unit, and I'm trying to push through damage. I can just double missile, and it will just do about 30,000 damage to something. I end up picking actually some more arc lights up, and I do a field recovery and sell off the arc light in the front because I realized the placement on these was very bad, and I'd rather not be just giving him free XP off these units, so I sell them off and place a couple more behind my steel balls and crawlers. And we actually see the opponent here flanking me with tarantulas in the back. Very common strategy that you see with aggro tarantulas, trying to just flank the opponents on all their corners. Especially with this tanky unit. But with the missiles, we end up winning on this right side, and the steel balls start pushing through, taking the towers. And there's not much you can do now. All right, on to round three. Picking up a subsidized steel balls, the opponent grabbing elite phoenixes, kind of going our own respective routes. Also, if you just saw that, that's kind of a sign of the expired gameplay, as there was an explosion right here. I decided to pick up the steel balls, since I'm like, you know what, let's go ahead and just focus on this, and I end up putting a flank over here, putting a flank in the back, and just kind of lining up some more in the front to push through. The only problem is now these elite phoenixes are going to be pretty much impossible to deal with on these first rounds. I have no anti-air to deal with, and he now shields up considering that I missiled last time, so he's doing some prepping. Or actually, I set up the steel ball back here to fight off this tarantula. He also gets his Farseer and places it here in the back as a way to just kind of push in damage because the range on it makes it so that it's going to be able to reach the tower faster. You know, if you can't beat the opponent at their own strategy, go ahead and join them. Now, having the shield up means the missiles that have place here aren't going to do anything. But I'm still able to pull off, you know, a little bit of unit destruction. The only problem is these Phoenixes are going to give him a default win for this round. All right, on to round 4, we get a unit drop. For him, the Scorpions are looking really strong against my Steel Balls. But he already has the Phoenixes to deal with those, so I'm not sure if he wants to pick those up. But he could also kind of get them as free unit drops to deal with my flanks as well. That way he doesn't have to spend the extra money on the Phoenixes, especially at rank 3, making them 400. He has to spend, you know, 800 supplies just to put some more on the flanks. Plus, their attacks are a little slow, so they can still kind of move in a little bit and distract them longer. Whereas the Scorpions are going to, yeah, exactly. They're going to be able to take them out in like one shot. As for me, I'm kind of looking for more just anti-air at this point. And the melting point's pretty much like guaranteed anti-air. The Wraith can do as well, but it's going to be weak against the Phoenixes. I mean, so is the melting point as well, but the range on it can be way more powerful than like range on a Wraith. And then we can see right there, comes down my melting point. And Heka also grabbing more Phoenixes. He actually uses one of those as a counter to the steel ball flank. We can see he places a Scorpion over here to stop the other flank as well. And I actually end up picking up a second melting point. I thought about it for a while, just because I wasn't sure about, you know, if I wanted to really commit to melting points this early on. But I figured, you know what, if he's going to have these rank 3 Phoenixes, I might as well grab something that can at least try and do something against them. And then just grab some more Arc Lights to kind of clear off chaff so they're not caught on those. He ends up missiling my right side, does a pretty good damage chunk right here. Steel balls are still doing pretty well over here, but now the issue is this left side is going to be a bit of a struggle for me. And we can see that he has now dealt with the flanks, no problem. The melting points, though, are doing pretty good against all of his units here. Except this tower take is going to just be enough for him to kind of get the win back going over here. And he's starting to actually do some decent amount of damage. On to round 5, we get some cards. Orbital Bombardment is always strong. It's a little weaker against, you know, aggro play, just because your units are moving a little too fast. Mobile Beacon's nice for both of us, so we can start just kind of pushing in. Super Heavy Armor actually would not be too bad of a pickup for the Melting Point, giving it an extra 150% life. I end up grabbing Photon Emission, so I can protect my board from some damage for a little bit. And I actually pick up the range as well on the Melting Points. That way they're able to lock onto these Phoenixes and not get so close. And now that I kind of have my backboard setting up, I need to defend it a little bit. So just grabbing some more chaff. So Fangs just in the front. These are pretty much going to be fodder for missiles or even these Scorpions, because their first shot's going to be used on here. And I even prepare for the orbital by placing a couple shields down. Plus the photon's going to help out with damage reduction as well. As a quick little note, we do see that my opponent has placed an arc light back here. I'm assuming he's going to think I'm going to place crawlers back here in front of the steel balls. That way the Phoenixes get distracted, so he wants this to take out anything coming in through here. Same with the other side as well, but I end up not even doing that at all. Because as soon as I saw the Phoenixes, I was like, alright, this is probably not worth it to try to keep doing flanking. He's doing some flanking, but he's not really committing to it. He's been placing more units on his line, same with me. And same with, you know, he's adding more chaff as well. Just kind of set up waves. Especially after seeing the melting points, it's just going to clog them up with more shots. And he actually grabs a shield because of the orbital bombardment card, but luckily I actually didn't take it. And he does another shield as well, or sorry, another missile on this right side, because it worked really well against him. Problem is it goes for the middle at the fangs, and the shield helps absorb the damage. And we can see the photon is actually helping out a lot with the damage reduction from the orbital. We can see that it barely took any damage. And now the range on these melting points is going to be the winning point of this round. Even with the tower take, my units are still alive in the front, so they have to waste a lot of their shots on these fangs and even arc lights. And now these melting points can just outrange the phoenixes. All right, on to round 6, we get a unit drop. We can actually already see right now that he has picked up the Vulcans, which is a very good choice, considering I have a lot of chaff here in the front. If he can clear out the chaff, then his phoenixes and scorpions and even marksmen will be able to target all of my larger units in the back. There's also Typhoon, Sandworm, or a Fort. I grabbed the Typhoons because I was also looking for ways to clear out chaff. Vulcans could have been a better option in the end, but the problem is I'm already dealing with phoenixes. And just getting some rank 1 Vulcans is not going to be enough. With this rank 3, they'll start taking them out in about, 2 shots each. One from each one twice. So I decided to grab the Typhoons, which technically have a lot less life. Being able to just get some more units here, and then I can even pick up the shield on them in the future. I also tried to do another missile out. And we're actually going to see it actually works out very well for him this time. I'll pause it here for a second, mostly because this is an expired replay. We're going to actually have some problems here. There's future rounds after this, but because of new updates, especially with the Vulcans, he actually technically claims the win on this round. But as we can see, he actually has crawlers coming through, so now my melting points actually get caught up on these, and they can't target the large units. And if we want to do some quick math here too, just to kind of see the point here, I'm at 1772. Each of these are, worth 300 right here. So we got 3, 6, 9, 12. Another 200 right here. So 14, 16, and then 17, 18 off these arc lights. All right, we are on to round 7. Comparing to what we saw last time, we did see that I was going to lose with the amount of units he had on here. But that's mostly because of the update with the Vulcans, as well as the Tarantulas as well. Some changes make them a little bit stronger. But instead of losing all that life, I end up actually going into 625 instead. For this round, I think I'd take the money and skip. My opponent actually grabbed a shield. No, we both got the portable shield to protect our larger units here. I also end up picking up Barrier on the Typhoons, because it's going to help defend against these Vulcans, so their fire takes longer to get through. He's also placed Phoenixes over here, and that's going to make it really easy for him to take this tower and debuff me for longer. And also something to note, I've been doing a lot of missiles on him, right here in the front. And so what I think is happening is he's starting to get worried that I'm going to missile the front every time. But we can actually use this to our advantage here in the future, because we know where he's going to be placing his shields every time, and that's going to come into play later on when we do some fixing around with the replay and how to solve this loss. All right, round start. The opponent has picked up Mechanized Rage on the crawlers, and now we can see these Typhoons actually doing work. They're actually to clear off a ton of the chaff, and now the melting points, as well as with energy diffraction, are able to lock on just to a few more targets. Damage is less, but because of that, they're now able to take these Phoenixes a little bit easier and kind of multi-target them. We actually see now that over here on the side, these crawlers are going to become an issue for us somewhat. Phoenixes are still going strong. He even has the quantum reassembly, so they are able to repair and have brand new units. Even with that, they're still not able to do anything. All right, on to round 8. Get some regular cards. We have an Incendiary Bomb, Photon Emission, Heavy Armor, and an Underground Threat. Underground Threat can be pretty good. Problem is he has Vulcans, and a lot of his board back here, if I put anything back here, it's just going to be taken out by Arc Lights. The Mech Rage on the Crawlers is going to just take them out. There's a chance I could place them over here and let them kind of go for this tower. But again, he has Crawlers right here, and they'll kind of just be pulled back. Heavy Armor, there's no really good unit to put this on. There's some chance to put it on a Melting Point, possibly, but the health on the Melting Point isn't really worth it, just because of the high level Phoenixes. Especially at rank 4 now, it's doing a ton of damage. And then there's the Photon Coating and Incendiary Bomb. I grabbed Photon Coating, because it worked so well for me last time. I figured, you know what, protect my units, make sure they can't die. My opponent, though, he actually grabs the Underground Threat. Now, at this point, this is where I'm trying to figure out, okay, how can I win this game? Melting Points worked really well for me last time. So I figured, you know what? Why not just grab maybe a couple more? I also know that these Phoenixes took this tower. So I end up placing one of them over here and just kind of adding another Melting Point on this line. And I actually grabbed some Fangs as well to place in front of the Melting Point so that the Phoenixes kind of take longer to deal with it. And since I also saw the Incinerary, I figured might as well grab some shields here just in case to defend against it kind of going here in the back, because I do have some later chaff coming in. And I also placed a missile over on the left to slow down the Farseer so it can't get to the tower as quick. I'm able to take care of this left side no problem. This Melting Point can also kind of help out with these Crawlers. The only issue now we're going to see, which I had the problem with last time, we got some Crawlers coming in. And of course, we do have this multi-melters. But the problem is there is just too many of them, and he has actually picked up more Phoenixes. And so they are able to just tear through the Melting Points. So it seems that my plan of more Melting Points ended up not working out. And the Photon. And with that, he's actually going to claim the victory when I was so close to winning. All right, so why don't we go ahead and start here at round 8. And I'll show you kind of what I did here to figure out how to beat this problem. And before we get into here, because it gives me a timer, the biggest issue I noticed that I ran into was that this late chaff became an issue over here. They kind of ran off to the side, fought these steel balls, and they kind of charged in after the Vulcans, and so the Melting Points got stuck trying to deal with those. The left side is kind of what it is. I don't think trying to add anything over here is worth it. And also picking up the Photon Coating didn't really work out as planned. In the end, this Incendiary Bomb is actually going to be the better play, noticing that this chaff is a problem for me. We also have to take into account almost every round the opponent has been shielding right on top of his units here. And if you kind of pay attention every single round, it's just about right where these Crawlers are is where it ends. So you, in theory, could place it right here and let all the units kind of run into them. But we're going to use this pull to our advantage. I'll show you here real quick. So, we're not going to grab the Photon Emission. We're going to grab the Incendiary Bomb. Before we place that, though, we do a little bit of what we did before. We want to promote his Typhoons to make them stronger. Get the 2 Melters here, along with the Fangs to protect them. And I'm actually going to sell these over here, because they're not really doing anything. They're just kind of getting shot out. It's not a lot of XP. These aren't ranking up. So that's not too much to worry about. But instead, what we're going to do is, these units pretty much came from over on this side. So what we're going to do is place the fire pretty much right in front of them and just down this line. So now when these run over, they're going to just run through the fire and get pulled. And I also want to grab the range. And with this money left over, I could now technically take care of this Farseer. I could even take care of these crawlers. And if I want to, not even have to worry about the Phoenix. It only has 5,000, but I have a 15,000 damage sentry missile. So that's going to take out this problem easily. And we're on the last round anyways. Remember, the opponent had about like 900 something life. So we can grab the money. And again, we saw Incinerary, so it's always good to just kind of prep and just defend your board. So let's see how well this does compared to the Photon over here and trying to clear off the chaff. The missiles do their work, taking out these units. Same with the ones over here, so now my steel balls can just work on this tarantula faster. And now we're actually seeing this chaff is just gone. They ran in, and they are just burned up entirely. So now these melting points are able to lock on to these Vulcans sooner. And then once the Vulcans are gone, there's so many of them, we can just start working on the Phoenixes. 1 down, 2 down, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And even this reassembly isn't going to be enough. And now, ooh, he has one more there. Can we take it out in time? Yep, right there. And now if we're looking at the damage we do to him, almost 2,000. At least double what we did. Or double his life, considering he was at like 990 something. So looking back at what changed here on this round, the unit placement was pretty much the same. The only difference was instead of grabbing Photon, the Incendiary Bomb was the better idea. And it seems to be the play for most games. It seems now that Fire has kind of picked up leverage in a lot of games dealing with chaff. Because even with chaff units like such as Typhoons or Arc Lights can do chaff clear, but they're a little slow with it. Typhoons are actually really strong, and the shield helps out with, countering fire as well as other units, even like shield. Because it just absorbs extra shots. And the higher level they get, it's just, more life pool to go through. But fire here seems to be the key to just taking out chaff that you're not able to deal with. There is some thought to take out these steel balls instead of the left ones, and just kind of placing fire right about here. The only problem is that these crawlers here are actually going to be able to rush in before they can be taken out by the fire. And then that's more things for the melting points to deal with. So it's better to kind of control where his units go and then place fire where they're going to end up instead. Now, if you'd like for me to check out your games as well, I'll be checking out the Solve a Replay channel on the Mechabellum Discord. If you'd like to check out some live gameplay, you can find me over at Twitch at twitch.tv/fab4200. If you liked the video, go ahead and subscribe and leave a like. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Can I Fix It?